They smashed the windows, they vandalized everything around there. The majority of the crowd was white. And the issue that we're having, or the next day that I noticed a lot of newspapers and articles have resonated the same message, that pretty much if it was a group of Black people, there's absolutely no way in hell that they would have even gotten past the doorstep. There would have been way more killings, way more assaults, and way more police brutality than what was seen yesterday.
It's very, very complicated. I don't think it's as easy as saying A or B. But I think that the US just has like a self-hate relationship with themselves. Like they're just so immersed in toxic history that they can't seem to entangle themselves from. And they're just actually heading into a worse place than they have been in the last like how many decades. And I don't think one president is going to come in and unravel this. It's collectively every citizen in the US has to make a decision that they want to change bad enough, because there's just so many layers of gunk and history that a lot of them are just living in still. Like they just won't get out of their thought processes. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's not as simple as like, well, this new president's going to come and like things are going to change. The people have to change. A president can't just like, change the country. People have to want that change enough.
And I think I agree with you in that sense, because it's at a point, it's enriched in their fabric. So like in terms of, you can go back to civil wars, you can go back to the rights to vote, you can go through the history of, the 19th, the 20th century, Martin Luther King marching. It's pretty much in America's fabric in terms of racism and how they treat minorities, individuals of color, specifically Black people. It's in their laws, it's in their constitutions. The laws were not even created for Black people. Everybody knows this. It's in their constitutional laws. And I feel like it was pretty much out on display yesterday for everybody to see, as bold as possible, that, hey, you know what? Unfortunately, when you're a person of color, this is going to be how you're going to be treated versus an individual who is not of color, because there's no way that you can go to a historical building or a legislative building, destroy it, and then be able to be held hand in hand with an officer calmly being led down the stairs to safety. That's ridiculous. And these are some of the images and photos that are going out right now. These people who've committed it, it's like, in a sense, if we can go back to something as simple as kindergarten and we teach our children the difference between yes, right and wrong, good and bad, it's as if though the way that they were treated yesterday, that their behavior is justifiable and they're not being reprimanded for their decisions and their choices and what they did. And there was an article that I saw in the Guardian, and one quote really stood out to me, and it was that these cops or these individuals sacrificed their lives to save white supremacy. So in a sense, you can look at it as those that were picketing were sacrificing their lives to save white supremacy, and the individuals or the cops who are supposed to serve and protect everybody were sacrificing their lives to save those white supremacists and get them to safety. That's really troubling.
And I'm going to ruffle feathers with this too, but I think it also ties into they're so hell-bent on their right to freedom on every level, even if it means loss of life or quality of life. So like if you look at like the right to bear arms, the right to this, the right to that, I think that there's something to be said about having some type of level of structure in a society. Like we all want to be free human beings, but the reality is we need some freedoms a little bit controlled in order not to have anarchy. Like as you saw yesterday, the right to speak your piece, the right to the right to this and that. it kind of backlashes sometimes, because to protect people's rights, they're allowing so many things to go on.
Mm.
Like they're so hell-bent on just their right to freedom over there, at the expense that anything goes.
Right,
There's not enough structure to protect people who need to be protected.
right,
I think
right.
I second with I always say like Canada is such a nice peace bubble, but there is in fact still racism here, but in the States it just goes to like a whole new level. And but it's, even if you break it down, because I'm sitting here listening to you guys because I don't watch the news. I don't watch the news. I don't even check the weather network, like nothing, because I know I'm going to see something that is going to irritate me. And so it took me a minute to process what was actually happening. And when I break it down, it's something so simple. If somebody was banging on a car window, and I've experienced this myself with Kevin, black versus white, you're going to get more heat at the black guy banging on the car window than you will anybody else, just because of the stuff that's going on. So even if you don't have experience in all of this news and politics and stuff, it's just that was like a clear picture.
Yeah, you don't have to be following the news to see what's going on here. Like you just take a flick of what happened yesterday and you're like, oh yeah, clear as day.
Yeah.
And they're so blatant with it. Like it's such outspoken, blatant racism.
Yeah.
But they're so used to living like that, that to them, this is normal.
This is normal behavior. Yeah. Yeah, like I'm not even shocked. I'm not shocked. I'm just, it just, it kind of confirms for me even more that, you know what, this is an unfair world. And I agree, like it's not just a one stamp solution. It's going to really, really take a lot. Like it should never hit a point where a minority group is begging and peacefully protesting and begging to not be killed, to not be treated like an animal and a piece of garbage in the street, to not be, to not be manhandled or treated with disrespect. And I'm completely appalled, but I agree, it's definitely in the fabric. And it's through centuries from they would have to change their laws. They would have to honestly change the mindsets of people. And it's so hard. I am even, we all, a lot of like, protesters and leaders and people kind of come together all the time and say, okay, so like, what's the solution? What can we do? And it's like, you're up in arms. You just don't know what to do. The problem is so big. Like, what do you really do? Okay, so we followed in Martin Luther King's footsteps and we peacefully protested. And what happens? We get assaulted for that. Mm-hmm. We decide we want to use our voice and speak. Oh, you're too aggressive. You're speaking too much. You decide you want to stay silent. Oh, you don't care about your people. You're not talking loud enough. So then, like, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do?
And I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that was all I was going to say.
I think, yeah, and like, it goes back to like unraveling their whole system. Like, okay, so the president or the leaders want to say, let's put an end to all this. You have to unravel the justice system, the incarceration system, the criminal system, unravel all that mess that's happening in there. Then you have to go to the school system, unravel all that. Then you have to go to like the economy. Every pocket needs so much unraveling. And I think people just like to say what sounds good. Every leader wants to say, we want to be peaceful. Let's bring our people together. Let's put an end to racism. Let's put an end to this. It's pretty to say that, but no one's putting a dent in any of the systems that keep like reinforcing all of this behavior.
Yeah. And I think from what I've seen, I mean, obviously we live here in Canada, but from what I've seen, how people can start with making changes is really, America is so vast And a lot of people put so much emphasis on who the president is, but they don't put emphasis on their little rural communities and who their mayors are, or who their senators are, or who their smaller pocket governments are per each state. So, and I think this is what a lot of African Americans were doing. They were coming out in droves, in millions, and actually exercising their vote, which was a wonderful thing. But a lot of times we've always believed in our mind, like when we emphasize to go out and vote, a lot of people kind of believe, what does it matter? What is one vote going to do? What does my vote matter? Who's going to hear me? What does it even, who cares? I'm not going to bother. And then you're taking a vote and you're tossing it. But for the first time, there's been a shift in that a lot of people came out, millions of Black people came out to exercise their vote and their right to vote, which has now turned and made a shift of change, historical change, in that now 2 of the seats are Democratic. And that's something that Georgia has not seen in, God knows, maybe over 40 years, 50 years, actually probably never. So that's really powerful. So I think on my note on ending on this, I will definitely say, and even for Canada as well, your vote matters. Whether you think you're one little person in a rural community, whether you think you are one little individual in a population of like millions of people, your vote matters, because your vote can shift and change history. And that's one thing I'm going to teach my daughter. Yeah, you know what? It's unfortunate. The color of our skin is, there's going to be ignorant people that are going to come at us. But you know what? We got to stand up, keep on going, and exercise our right through voting, because there's many people in history that died and got beaten and killed just for our right to vote. Why would you want to piss that down the toilet? So
and
vote.
That one vote could be the tipping point. That could be that one little vote that tips the scales over to change starting.
And that's exactly what took place in Georgia. So I guess, I mean, it's one percentage, a minute positive in this complete dark madness, but it's a start. It's a start. So yeah. But what I saw yesterday was absolutely horrifying and disgusting, that even my 12-year-old daughter was watching it in fear, knowing that it was absolutely disgusting and that people of color are definitely being treated unfairly. And she even knew that, and she's 12.
And this was just one moment in time. This captured, though, the rage that they live in daily. We just don't see the day-to-day little pieces of rage against each other. This was just the televised rage.
Yeah.
Like, they're doing this to each other in small doses on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Pamela.
I'm just taking it all in. I think it's gross. I think it's dumb. Just taking it in, thinking of how a difference could be made. But I think, like you guys said, it's just with speaking and using your voice. And I think you have to look at what you can do within your own capacity, and it should start from the 4 walls of your home. So talking to your kids about it, so that there isn't this huge fear around it, but just the knowledge to know, and know that they can rise above it within their own circumstance and with their own self in their mind. Because with everything else happening in the world and all of the other stuff, the mental health strain that is going to come out of this is crazy. So we're already locked down, then we went through the first thing, now we're going through this thing, and it's just a lot to keep adding into the pile. So if we can just remove that pile and go to the core and just understand where we are as individuals, I think that's how you can create the change within your home, because the only safe space you really have in life is your home, wherever it may be. So I think that's where you have to start things. And especially for myself, like I said before, like Madison, my 8-year-old, said to me the first time this all happened was, "Mom, Black people and white people are fighting, so which side do I go to, because I'm both?" He literally just said, you make your own team. You make your own team and your own side, and you're not going to stand for the nonsense, but you're going to stand up for who you are, and you are both. But if you are white and that side is doing something ridiculous, you don't put up for it. You don't put up with it. And same on both sides, and that's it. It has to start within you.
Yeah, and I agree as well. And you know, if you're sitting down and you're wondering, okay, you know what, I want to make a change and I want to start within the four walls, you can start by teaching your children about historical Black figures. Teach them about the Maya Angelos, teach them about the Martin Luther Kings, teach them about the Frederick Douglasses and all the wonderful things that they did and the sacrifices they made to build this country.
And I'm going to show you a book before we come out, and we will, if there's anybody else who has something to say about this, we would love to hop in on that. But I just want to show you a book real quick. If you have kids, so we read this book to our kids all the time, and it's all about bold women in Black history. So each page will basically open up a new person in history and go through, I think Oprah Winfrey's in here, and it just goes through who they are and what happened and what they did and how they stood up to make a change. So that's a great, it's on Amazon, it's in Indigo, but I think it's great. And the author has a bunch of other books just to show in a way that's light, because we also don't want it to be so heavy on our kids, but in a way that it's light, to teach them history with beautiful illustrations and nice wording put to it for them to be able to absorb at their age.
Absolutely. And if you could post that and like the information so that the link to that so people can grab it, that would be fantastic. Because you know what? It starts with, you know what, you're never too young. It's just the way how you deliver it. Yeah. Like you said, you know, make it lighthearted, but you're never too young to start learning about your Black history. And you know what? It's not my Black history because I'm Black. It's not my daughter's Black history because she's Black. No, it's history. It's everybody.
It's life history.
It's life
world history. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's a wonderful resource. And yeah, if you could post that and add it to the link, that would be fantastic. And it'd be an awesome start.
Yeah.
Because change begins within yourself. Change begins, like you said, Pam, within your four walls. And we are responsible as parents, as aunts, as uncles, etc., whatever. We are responsible for developing and building the new generation that's going to be ahead of us when we leave this earth.
Yeah.
Let's create let's create a tree that will produce good fruit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we will put this in the comments below, and you can check out this book, and we will see you again soon. Have a good day.
Bye, guys.
Bye.